The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I not only say the things I need to say, but the things I think you need to hear. And your feelings, they're not a factor. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of I Had to Say It. So we're going to start out as we do by saying Josh, B-Word, Iceman, Jason, Miss Aaron, Mike, Tabby, Javier, Fitz, McShane, El Jefe, El Devlin, El Morte, and the lads over at the Weathered Report. Thank you for your continued support of this show. I appreciate it. You guys make me want to be a better man. So, in a little bit of housekeeping, just in case you missed the live drawing over the weekend, winners' prizes will be on their way. They will be going in the mail as of the day the episode drops today, Tuesday. They were going to go on Monday, and then I forgot the envelopes. And that should also kind of clue you in that I'm recording this Monday night after I got home from work. Now, I deliberately waited to record today's episode because it's not that there was a shortage of stupid shit that happened last week to talk about, but I really wanted to wait and see if any stupid shit happened specifically due to the eclipse today. Now, nothing did. I mean, no catastrophic stuff. Nobody got raptured. There was no purge. There was nothing. It was a big fat nothing burger. The sun went behind the moon for a few minutes, just like it's done before, and it will do again. And in the meantime, the usual bullshit is still going on, where we've got the White House Biden's trying to buy votes using tax dollars by saying, oh, we're going to forgive all student loan debt and blah, 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 and this will bring in relief to 40 million Americans. Yeah, meanwhile, penalizing the other 280 million Americans who don't actually owe the fucking money, which is something they never want to point out. And meanwhile, everybody's going to benefit. Oh, well, it's not fair, predatory lending, and da-da-da-da. Motherfucker, you signed the paperwork, you took out the loan. And these are the same people that are saying an 8-year-old knows they're in the wrong body and should be able to get hormone blockers and gender transition surgery, are saying fucking 18-year-olds aren't responsible enough to read the loan paperwork and the agreement and shouldn't be bounded by the agreement they willingly entered into and deserve debt relief. Well, you know, I've got several $1,000s worth of debt right now racked up. Where's my relief? Oh, I don't get any because that was debt that I incurred just living. I didn't get some useless degree. I didn't go suffer through indoctrination. And the college I did get, I paid for myself. So I'm not worthy of any kind of loan forgiveness. Silly me. How fucking selfish of me to not want my taxes to go towards paying these stupid motherfuckers' bills. And in the meantime, I am inclined to, when things like this happen, and I look at what else is going on in the world. It's just the way I look at the world. And a lot of dumb shit happened last week. And a lot of shit happened where people are overreacting. We had an earthquake hit the East Coast. Most of New Jersey was rocking and rolling. That was pretty entertaining, actually. My favorite tweet about that, or X-post, whatever. I still call them tweets. It's just force of habit was. But actually, Ice-T posted something that I thought was hilarious. He said, well, that was my bad. Sometimes I like to get a little in the morning. And yeah, good for you, Ice-T. I'm happy for you. But then we immediately have these moronic, elected officials, and of course they're all leftists. Oh my God, climate change is so scary. This is bad. Weather made this happen. And, you know, I mean, obviously that's not exactly how they were saying it. I am using hyperbole because it is Monday evening. I'm tired. I'm trying to get this wrapped up. And I still have thoughts about the matter. But yes, no, we had these dumb motherfuckers, like Green Party people, out there making posts like, oh my God, this climate change is scary. Now earthquakes are happening. You dumb motherfucker. That's not how. Okay, it's ultimately, yes, some stupid people statements were made. They were subsequently retracted, or else the posts were just deleted because, well, they realized how fucking stupid they actually were. But all things being said and done, and all things equal, you know, generally more of the same bullshit. Jobs report comes out. Jobs report, again, White House, although the left Democratic official line is, oh, look at all this job growth. And they hesitate to, well, actually, they never mention the fact that literally every single job report for the last 11 months, I think it is, 9 or 11 months, every single one has been revised after the initial publication to reflect lower numbers. And even more importantly, out of all those job reports, none of them have actually shown any growth in full-time jobs being held by domestically born individuals. It is literally only a jobs boom for non-American born people. So illegals and legal migrants too, the legal ones, I do not begrudge them their opportunities, their jobs, their employment. Howsoever, they're really not the ones filling out the bulk of these fucking numbers here. So every time the White House is trying to tout how amazing their job growth numbers actually are, the reality is, no, they're not. It's part-time jobs, it's government jobs, which are literally unsustainable in terms of economic value because they do not add to the gross domestic production. They are a negative to the GDP because they are funded through taxes. Taxes are only drafted off of people that are not government positions. So they're literally a net loss for the economy. And they don't tell you any of this shit because if they actually told you the truth and what the numbers were, people would be more pissed off than they already are. And the left is losing its base. Young people are becoming disenfranchised, which, you know, they were morons in the first place for believing the lies, but at least they're snapping out of it. Or not all of them. There's still a lot of fucking morons out there that think this is the fucking way. And they just want to continue bitching about how unfair it is. And meanwhile, they are themselves the victim of the policies of the assholes they are endorsing. They are the ones who are never going to be able to own a home because of policies that make things like squatting legal, where the squatters just become tenants after 30 days. And if you don't catch them right away, the property owner's on the fucking hook for all the bills. Well, that creates unsustainable housing markets. And then we have big corporations coming in and buying up all the fucking single-family homes and driving them price up and increasing the market share. And so we've got companies like BlackRock owning thousands and thousands of single-family homes or multi-family units, but still not apartments. And again, driving up the market, making the prices untenable because your average person can't get a loan that can compete with an offer that a corporation like BlackRock that owns literally fucking everything can make on a property. And, you know, every time a law comes up trying to prohibit companies like BlackRock from doing exactly what they're doing, it's stopped by the Uniparty because they're all in the fucking pockets of these corporations. And, well, I can't even call them corporations, these multi-corporate globalist organizations. I mean, all of our politicians are bought and paid for at this point, and they are utterly fucking worthless, but they're still out there doing their thing, and their thing is enriching themselves at the expense of everyday people every fucking day. And so we have these morons that are out here completely manipulated, doing exactly what they need to be done by the people that are doing the manipulating. And it's so fucking frustrating to me. And people with no fucking concept of like basic economic principles. And I'm not some, you know, master of the economic arts. I'm not some, you know, super financially proficient individual, but I am smart enough to understand basic cause and effect. And thankfully, I went to school in a time where things like critical thinking and reasoning were still being taught, so I can look at these things and go, this doesn't fucking add up. And the fact that they're telling me this is what's going to work and how the world should be should tell me something, because none of the results are what they promised. And I'm not so fucking naive as to go, well, everybody should be able to figure this out, because we have literally bred and trained and indoctrinated critical thinking right out of the fucking equation in these kids. And of course, I'm using the royal we. I've never encouraged that. Thankfully, my kid turned out smarter than that. I can't take all the credit for it. I like to think I get a little of the fucking credit for it. I mean, he's definitely not one that's just going to be like, oh yeah, no, what they're telling us is the truth and right. But yeah, anyway, so the administration is still lying about the jobs numbers. The Fed is still lying about the state of the economy, saying, oh, we've got a good, strong economy. Inflation's starting to come down. And meanwhile, you know, realistic day-to-day cost of goods and services is up anywhere from 10 to 50% on average. The median cost of living increase has been about 40%. And all of this is, you know, perfectly fine according to the people in charge. This is just, it's caused by corporate greed. All these greedy, price gouging companies that are making record profits. Now, see, there's a problem with this. because the numbers the leftist assholes like to point at that say, oh, look, it's all the greedy corporations' fault. They're causing inflation because they're making record profits and they're sustaining greater than ever markups because they got used to price gouging during COVID and they're just refusing to lower the prices now that things are going back to normal. Well, see, here's the thing, you simple-minded fucks. Not that any of them will probably ever hear this because, let's face it, my little core audience of listeners, I love you guys and I appreciate you dearly, but I'm pretty sure none of you are the dumb fucks echoing this shit because people that have that sort of mentality can't handle having their worldview challenged because they know legitimately they don't have a foot to stand on. They can't make an argument that has any sort of logic or any sort of sound footing. It's all emotional appeals and self-righteous indignation, so they can't stand when they are called to task. They can't actually prove their beliefs. It's just they are expected to be accepted as true because it is their beliefs, and obviously they are superior individuals and they are more moral and they are smarter and better than we are just because they believe these things, and we must be fools and morons for not believing them. Meanwhile, like I said, median cost of goods is up an average of about 40%, and like I said, the morons who are screaming, oh, well, this is price gouging, and let's look at the companies are posting record profits. Well, see, here's the catch to that. The companies have to sustain record profits at this point because the purchasing power of the money has been so devalued by the reckless spending and irresponsible behavior of the federal government, pumping, I think, 80% of the world's finances, of the dollars in circulation, were all put into circulation in the last 5 years. Printing money out of thin air, giving out trillions of dollars in nothing. We have trillions and trillions of dollars of bad debt. We're on pace to be increasing the deficit at record rates. And rather than doing the things that are necessary to rein this shit in, rather than even attempting to pass a balanced budget or attempting to at least keep the deficit spending to a modicum or something mildly respectable, they're just chugging along full steam ahead. The government's going to pay for everything and we're going to tax the billionaires more to offset all this extra spending. But we've got a bunch of politicians in DC spending like fucking drunk sailors. There is no accountability. There's no responsibility. There's no realistically grounded people who can just step back and say, you know what, this is fucking stupid. It's irresponsible. We are destroying this country. They're really in the pillaging the treasury stage of an empire's collapse right now. And the funny thing about it is that pretty much, I'm sure these parasitic fucks are diversifying their holdings. So when the dollar does completely fucking disintegrate, which they seem to be rushing headlong into doing, we're legitimately at the point where the taxes taken in by the federal government at this point, and we are all paying more in taxes than ever, aren't going to be covering the interest alone, much less paying anything down on the principal of the debt sustained by this country. And we're gonna hit that benchmark in my lifetime. They're not willing to do the things that are necessary to negate this process. They have yet to even attempt to pass a balanced budget. They just have budgets chocked full of pork and special interests and all their little earmarks, and they don't pass single measure bills. They don't pass single measure line items on a budget. They're still passing these omnibus ridiculous fucking bills without any time to properly review them, with all kinds of pork in there that should be cut. Not could be cut, should be fucking cut, because it's irresponsible and reckless spending. And it's never going to change because there is no one holding these assholes accountable. And all you got to do to look to it is look to how willing they are to throw money at buying favor out of stupid motherfuckers with no economic sense. If you want to take a prime example of stupid motherfuckers with no economic sense that the government is trying to buy off through bad policy, all you got to do is look at California. Now, California is pretty much a microcosm of every bad idea they are trying to force through in Washington. California is the pilot program for how you take the third largest economy on the planet. The state of California had a more thriving economy than 90-some% of the planet. I forget the exact number, but it's like 97 or 98% of the planet. Like countries don't have the economics that the state of California has or had available to it. The last couple of years, they have lost businesses by the fucking drove. They are like actively putting policies in place that are driving money out of the fucking state. The taxes are absolutely obscene. The accountability is nil. The return on investment, those taxes aren't buying shit. Some of what were once the most beautiful cities in the country have turned into desolate fucking shitholes under these like socialist ridiculous policies being put in place by their fucking hairpile governor. And in a prime example of dumb motherfuckers don't understand economics, California started this month, the beginning of April, kicked off California's new $20 an hour minimum wage for fast food workers. Less than 24 hours into this mandated $20 an hour minimum wage, thousands of people were laid off from their jobs. Hundreds of restaurants literally fucking closed. Actual franchises were shut down. McDonald's has started implementing fully automated kitchens where they have robots doing the cooking. They have robots they have self-checkout kiosks where you punch in your order and then you wait for the automated thing to put your fucking order together. Anybody who didn't see this coming is a fucking moron. These are the people who, again, if you had any understanding of economic principles, you wouldn't be a fucking socialist because you would realize it doesn't fucking work. It's not a model that works. If you need further evidence of that, all you have to do is ask yourself a legitimate question. How many people per year flee capitalist environments to go to the socialist paradises, and how many vice versa? How many people do you hear building rafts in Miami and kicking across shark-infested waters to go to fucking Cuba? Not a lot. Oh, wait, that's right. None. It's a null set. It doesn't fucking happen. You know why it doesn't happen? Because it's a shithole and there's no reason to risk your life to go there. But in the meantime, all that's going on. They're, again, $20 an hour minimum wage for fast food. Now, of course, by the way, Gavin's restaurant that he owns, now his staff's still making $16 an hour. So he's very much a fucking hypocrite on top of everything else. Yeah, and while that's going on, what else is going on? The Senate and Congress, I want to say, I think it's in Congress. Well, yeah, they're in the House now anyway. The surveillance bill, FISA 702, which has been abused by the alphabet agencies to allow warrantless spying on American citizens, is up for renewal. There's trying to, the uniparty assholes are trying to say, oh no, it's not being used against U.S. citizens, which is utter horseshit. And it's a horrible bill. It should be thrown out in the trash, but it's probably not going to happen. One of the few politicians I like, Thomas Massey, saying he's going to call for a vote on it where it has to be recorded and made public, and he's going to publish who voted to keep this fucking illegal spying horseshit going on. So looking forward to that. Let's see what else is going on. Let's see. Covered that. Yeah, squatters are still taking over properties from legitimate homeowners. They're still trying to disarm the general population. They're still pushing for gun bans. They're trying to raise the age limit to buy weapons. Not addressing any of the, problems that have led to most of the violence and mass shootings. Women in large blue cities are getting punched in the face by random assholes, and don't make the correlation that it has anything to do with the policies that had they voted for that put, soft on crime judges into positions of power, where these assholes have no fear of the law because there is no penalty for their illegal behavior. We have criminals who are on their second, third, fourth, 11th fucking, outstanding felony being released back into the general public to continue up with the bullshit they're doing. And nothing changes. Nothing's being done about it. Nothing's stopping it. So, why should they care? And we have more instances, and there was a thing going on where these women, it's a trend in New York City right now. Men are running up, punching women in the face, and it's mostly, white women that are generally, traditionally large, deep blue cities. white women probably kind of oh yeah, no, I understand. I feel your pain. I don't want to invalidate you, until they get punched in the fucking face. And now they're complaining, well, where are the men? How come there's no men stepping up to defend us? How come they're just letting this happen? Well, it's mostly because you bitches asked for it. The last guy who did something in New York to stop a crazy motherfucker that was threatening the safety of others was a guy whose last name is Penny. You can look it up. He's still in jail. They put him out like $100,000 bond because he choked out a guy that was a threat to other people on the subway, and they threw him in jail. You want to know why good Samaritans aren't coming to your fucking defense? Because you fucking asked for it. This is what you get. These are called consequences. I have no sympathy for these assholes in deep blue cities. I'll tell you something. If my wife was out, well, she's not going to be out in a big city by herself anyway, but if she were out in that situation and some guy ran up and punched her in the face, I'm going to feel bad for that guy because he's going to get shot while he's fucking running off after hitting her. Because these aren't like guys that are squaring up and boxing these women. They run up, punch them in the face, run off. They're fucking hooligans. They're thugs. They're fucking degenerate little loser assholes. And yeah, like I said, my wife, she's going to shoot the motherfucker. And I would be completely supportive of that as a good husband. I will back her up, and I know how she is with a firearm, so I'm not real worried about the other person's well-being because they're going to be on a fucking T-shirt, as they should be. But yeah, so that being said, it's getting late. Let's wrap this up. What else is going on this week, or in the last week and a half? Let's see. The bridge collapse still collapsed. Biden's still talking about paying for it. The conspiracy behind this one at the moment is Biden saying the federal government's going to pay to rebuild this bridge because they don't want to get the insurance companies involved, because the insurance companies will do an investigation before they're willing to make any payouts, and any investigation into the thing will probably bring to light that it was not actually accidental and it might have been a deliberate act of sabotage. So that's the popular theory, is that's why the government's saying they're going to pay for it like immediately after it happened. Is, well, you know, that's a possibility, I suppose. I don't want anybody looking too deeply into the matter, but insurance companies are like anybody else. I'm sure they could be bought off. Now, that being said, I'm more inclined to think it's actually something to the effect of Biden's so used to spending money willy-nilly that he's got no problem saying the federal government will pick up the tab on everything, because he's a delusional old fuck who thinks he can do and say whatever the fuck he wants without any consequence, penalty, or actual responsibility. So, fuck Sleepy. And again, you know, the FBI is still going and doing visits with people that are saying things about opposing the administration. I'm still doing my thing. I'm still saying what I'm going to say. Every day I get closer and closer to breaking down and going back on my own promise to, I think I actually said it in an episode at the beginning, and at some point when the whole subscription to X thing started, when it was still Twitter, where I said I would never pay for social media, particularly in the context, unless this show took off and I had all of a sudden enough listeners to warrant having a verified following account. I was never going to pay for it, but that open character limit is calling to me and taunting me, and I've had to, I even with everything I do to kind of parse down my characters in my posts, these motherfuckers are pushing me so goddamn hard. Just watch. If you're following me on any of the social medias, you should be following me on Twitter. That's the one I'm the most active on. At least for now. I'm going to try and start doing audiograms and stuff for Instagram. But that's, again, besides the point. You know, anything under the Meta suite, I'm really trying to distance myself from, because, frankly, I don't trust Zuckerberg as far as I could throw him. And I'm pretty sure I could get him a decent distance with at least one bounce. But that being said, yeah, I'm going to crack one of these days. Fucking one of these asshole politicians is going to say or post something that is going to be so bad that I'm not going to be able to contain myself, and I'm going to break down and I'm going to pay for a subscription. And at that point, I'm going to need you motherfuckers to start really interacting with that account, because I'm going to need it to be monetized so I can start making, so I can justify to my own self having that check mark is worth it, because I'm going to need a lot of traffic where I start getting those pennies on clicks and shit. And I'm going to need all of you to help me with that. But I digress. Where was I? Yeah, so Schumer and the Warhawks are still trying to push for more money for Ukraine. It looks like the speaker who was put in to replace McCarthy as the new Speaker of the House is going to cave. They're going to send another $60 billion to fucking Zelensky. Zelensky's here telling Congress, well, if you don't give us more money, Russia's going to win. Well, who gives a fuck? I've said it before, I'll say it again. This war never should have happened. It never should have been drawn out to the extent it was drawn out. We never should have gotten fucking involved because, frankly, it's not our problem. It's not our responsibility. It is not our fight. They are not defending the fucking good guy here. Literally everything that we have been accused of as far as U.S. involvement in biolabs in Ukraine, all the fucking shit that, were basically branded as conspiracy theories when it was originally released, when Russia was trying to justify the acts of aggression. And I would like to reiterate something that I've said before. I don't want any of the innocent people dying. I don't support any of these fucking governments that are getting their people killed over their little dick measuring contests. But the Crimean Peninsula, by all accounts, wanted to go back to being part of Russia. And the Ukraine government was not allowing it. So, it's not unfounded that if you look outside of the mainstream media Western world narrative, maybe we're not the good guys here. I mean, I'm dissatisfied enough with our own government. The fact that they're trying to push that we are the good guys really makes me question the fucking narrative. It really makes me say, you know what? I really fucking doubt it. Particularly when you look at who's pushing this narrative. When you look at, the mainstream media is literally dying. I don't mourn it at all. They've laid off thousands of fucking employees across all aspects of mainstream media. And I say good riddance to the motherfuckers because they have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt they're not worthy of the public trust. They have been derelict in their duties and their responsibilities. They were supposed to be a chuck valve to the government. They were supposed to be honest and impartial and yada, 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 and they're fucking not. They are just a propaganda machine for the government, and more specifically for the left, even though I still hold to the idea that we are realistically functioning under a controlled opposition uniparty system. You've got the people that follow the rules and do as they're told by their masters because they're bought and paid for and they're utterly fucking useless. And then you've got a few stragglers and outliers that legitimately just won on merit and are not playing the game and are only there because their constituents actually keep putting them back in place. But, you've got the Warhawks hawking. You've got the guy who said he was going to be the replacement for McCarthy. And he was going to bring this, court system and bring the Congress back under control and get us back putting America first. He's about to give Ukraine another $60 billion without doing fuck all for our actual national security. Because he's weak and he's doing exactly what every other Republican in this position does. They knuckle under. They always cave. They always give in. They always... and you get people out there that are like, I have no patience for left-leaning assholes any more than I have for right-leaning assholes. And the right-leaning assholes piss me off particularly because you get the right-leaning talking heads, the pundits, the ones who are trying to analyze why they're constantly losing to the left. And they don't want to acknowledge a simple fact is the crazy motherfuckers that are ultra-left pieces of shit that want to dictate your life and take away your freedoms and tell you have to live according to their standards, at least they fucking commit. You get a lot of vocal saber rattling out of the fucking right, and then they fold every time there's any kind of, chance to stand up and do the right thing. Anytime they are in an option to shut the government down and not fund this bullshit, anytime they're in a position to leverage the tiny little fraction, a smidgen of power they have, they fucking knuckle under. They're worthless. They're pointless. It's a fucking sham. It's falling apart. And I worry that shit's going to collapse. I don't know a positive way to try and spin this where I can say without sounding like a hypocrite to my fucking self. The system's failing. We're in the decline of the empire. And make no mistakes, as much as we want to talk about liberty and freedom and we're the greatest country on earth and blah, 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 and rah, 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 we're really not at this point. We should, if we wanted to be the greatest country on the planet, we would be maintaining non-interventionist policies because intervention and expansion and military bases in every fucking country on the planet are not the acts of a country securing itself. They are the acts of an empire. We are attempting to police the world and make the world live according to our standards. We don't have any fucking right to do that ultimately. And somewhere along the lines, we forgot that. We decided we need to bring America to the fucking world. And the problem is, most of the world doesn't want America. And America's probably not going to be around to reinforce these ideas at the rate things are going, at least not in the incarnation that we all have and that we remember, even what we hold in our minds to be true. And it's not accidental. It's deliberate. It's globalist nonsense and horseshit. And the globalists are starting to see pushback, but is it enough? Is it too little, too late? Is it going to be a case of the whole fucking thing is going to collapse? We've got, oligarch money people like fucking Bill Gates. Bill Gates it just came out that they were financing a project in San Francisco on a decommissioned aircraft carrier where they were launching clouds of sodium crystals into the air in an aerosol mist. Now, a lot of the reporting is saying, oh, well, they're spraying aerosols into the air. And aerosol is not like some nebulous term of a specific chemical. Aerosol is simply a delivery system. It's a particleized mist. And they're putting what you have to look at is what they're aerosoling into the air. And, it's been utterly ridiculous. Chemtrails are everywhere. They're trying to block out the sun. That's what the policy, these sodium crystals in San Francisco is doing. They're trying to prevent the sun and make clouds more reflective to reflect more light up into the air to cool the earth. Because Bill Gates and his fucking Windows 3.1 fucking brain that barely functions. And you look at this fat, dumpy motherfucker, why anyone is taking health advice from him or why anybody thinks he's some goddamn genius when it comes to global issues and he's got any kind of mindset where he should be talking about environmentalism is fucking cracked and needs their head examined. But this motherfucker's throwing billions of dollars that, and I've said in the past, he got because he was in the right place at the right time with a product that people wanted. Wasn't the best product by any measure, but he made the deals that got it in front of everybody. That's how he made his fucking money, by being a good salesman, not by being a fucking genius. Now, people would argue it takes a certain degree of genius to see the potential of something and sell it, but ultimately that doesn't fucking qualify him. He's not a scientist. He's not a doctor. He's not a nutritionist. He's not somebody you should be looking to for advice on what kind of protein you put in your system or advice on how you should be living your life or advice on what sort of transportation you should be using to get around and advice on where your fucking fuel should be coming from. He's not qualified to speak on any of that shit. And yet he still does. And he is a depopulationist. He thinks that we have too many fucking people on the planet. And something I was actually thinking about now that I'm wired back up and back on another tear, I've been kind of, I used to read a lot. I haven't been reading as much as I used to in the last few years. I'm still working on the free books I got about surviving assorted things, and it's been slow going, at least for me. I used to be the kind of guy that was reading 2 or 3 novels a week. Now I'm lucky if I get a few pages in a day, a couple of chapters a week, and I'm counting that as a win. It's a combination of a lack of time, plus I'm just fucking tired all the time, and my brain is not in a condition to sit like I used to sit down and read and comprehend and process things. No problem, no sweat, fast as shit. I don't know if it's all the years of drinking and hard living, or if it's because I'm getting older and my neuroplasticity has gone down and I'm becoming, less cognizant and less comprehensive in my processes, which I may still, not to toot my own horn, but I may still be smarter than the average fucking bear, but that's a pretty low fucking bar these days, considering when you look at average, you have to figure in everything on the fucking table. And for every really, really smart guy out there, there's a whole lot of motherfuckers eating paste and looking at shiny rocks, making the sandwiches at 1 a.m. But ultimately, as I was thinking about everything that's going on in the world in recent times, in the last, let's call it 5-10 years, and something actually, now that my brain is starting to squirrel, something I did notice today when I was outside with all my coworkers and they were all looking at the eclipse and I was just kind of looking at the sky because I didn't feel the need to stare at the sun like, ooh, sun, go away. We didn't have a convenient virgin to sacrifice, so I didn't really have any fun planned on my agenda. And so I'm looking up at the sky, and then we happened to see a couple of planes flying by as we were outside. And I saw legitimate contrails and not something that I looked at and went, that's really weird. I think there's something coming out of that jet. Now the more and more I used to be one of those people who said, no, contrails just happen off of planes when they're flying. And what I saw today really makes me kind of reassess things, because the trails coming off of this plane were vanishing very rapidly, not dispersing out into these wide, wispy cloud trails is what we're used to seeing and being told are contrails. So either what I saw today was actual chemtrails being sprayed in the air, or the really long ones that don't dissipate and go away are the chemtrails. But either way, completely different pattern of coming off of the planes I saw flying this morning, or early afternoon. I don't know. It was 12:30, 12:45, something like that. Anyway, that's not the point. The time is not the point. Point is, I saw planes that were leaving trails off of their wings because they were flying lower than I'm used to seeing them, and the trails were evaporating and dissipating into the air really rapidly. But so that's not even, but what I was talking about, back to the books, and I used to read a lot of things, and one of the authors I was always fond of is Tom Clancy. Tom Clancy wrote some great books, and the Rainbow Six characters spawned an entire video game series, and now they're still writing Tom Clancy books, Jack Ryan books, based off of, the works he left behind, and all those other stuff. But something I was noticing as I was reading some of the older books, and he wrote about a lot of stuff that seemed fairly relevant, but he wrote one of his novels, the way Jack Ryan became the president is because somebody took a plane and hijacked and flew it into Congress during a speech. I don't remember if it was actually supposed to be the State of the Union or if it was a special summit where they were announcing that Jack Ryan was being put in the position that he was being put into. I think it was as a vice president. I haven't read the book in a few years, but I have to go back and look at it. But yeah, got taken out by a pilot that got pissed off at some stuff that was going on. A novel called Red Sun Rising. Good book. Pilot, at the end of the story, flies a commercial jet into fucking Congress, wipes out 80% of the government in one fell swoop. And then, a few years later, you look at it, and 9/11 happens. It's a bunch of guys hijack planes and fly them into buildings and take out a whole bunch of people and start a whole bunch of shit. And then I was thinking of other books, and specifically the novel Rainbow Six, where a large company engineers a bioweapon based off of Ebola in the story. But, it's not completely dissimilar to finding out that biolabs were enhancing existing viruses to be more lethal to humanity in the name of putting down a significant portion of the population. And the corporate motherfuckers who were doing it in that book were doing it because they were kind of like New Age druids who, again, very similar to the WEF and globalist agenda, were pushing depopulation, saying the Earth couldn't survive with humanity as present rates. And they were going to use these viruses to take down humanity to a manageable level. And they were going to distribute it through a misting system in the Australian Olympics during the Summer Olympics that would distribute these viral particles in the water supply that all the crowds would be walking through the course of the day and inhaling them, sucking them into their lungs, and it had like a 98% lethality rate and blah, blah, blah. And, the science in those books is always at least decently written. I mean, Tom Clancy was nothing if not thorough about his research, so the stuff was not outlandish. But then there was something that just occurred to me the other day, and I was thinking about it, and in this particular novel, like the plan B option to the initial outbreak coming from the virus was they would put they would acknowledge that due to the initial scare of an Ebola outbreak that had been in a couple of books prior, they had already been working on a vaccine, and it was going to be a traditional style live, not an mRNA thing, but a live virus vaccine, where they were going to say, oh, well, it's like we have incapacitated the virus to do how vaccines usually work, where you get a handicapped version of the virus that will create your body produce the proper antibodies, only it wasn't going to be as unalive virus as they thought it was. And the idea was the vaccines would go out and ensure the spread of the modified supervirus through the population, and the only actual vaccines would be going to the selected population that they wanted to survive. And they said the acceptable thing was they'd figure that they would have this compound built where all their selected people who were opted to survive, the chosen basically, would all be located to these different sites to wait out the course of this modified virus wiping out humanity. And they said there would be some pockets of resistance, and they needed to be well armed, because when people realized what they had done, the last act of humanity would be to try and come for them. And so I was thinking about that the other day, and I'm thinking about all these billionaires that are building bunkers around the world. And, I'm not saying that's what's going on, but It just seems to me like, Tom Clancy put some pretty good ideas out there in his books, and it seems like some people in the system must have been reading the same books, because it seems like he was kind of calling the shot, And it's not necessarily what's happening, but I'm not saying it's outlandish either. So at this point, realistically, what we need to do is what I've been saying for quite a while. I mean, not since the exact inception of the show, but I've felt this way for a long time. I've been saying it on the show for a long time. We need to be prepared. We need to get ready. Be prepared to take care of yourself. Take everything that comes out of any of the mainstream media sources with a grain of salt. Start stocking up. Hard times are fucking coming. I mean, there was a time where I thought we might be able to work through this, where I thought things could get better. I'm really fucking skeptical about that now. I mean, we need to take care of each other. We need to help each other out, but we need to be ready, because no matter which way you slice it, rough times are coming. Even if the fucking center somehow manages to hold, even if things don't completely collapse, even if this country is not actually doomed, there is going to be some major economic hardships coming. The dollar is not going to maintain as a fiat currency. The system is going to fucking collapse. Our debt is unsustainable, particularly with the existing government practices. Barring our own, Javier Milei getting elected, which ain't going to happen. The fucking Cheeto ain't it. He's not going to come in and drain the swamp. He's not going to come in and slash and burn and cut spending to a level that will actually make a fucking difference. It's just not going to happen. So we have to be prepared. The system's going to collapse. And at this point, I legitimately believe that it is being done fucking deliberately. They want the US dollar to collapse and become worthless. Because once that happens, they're going to be able to institute a centralized digital currency. That's going to be the option. If the government maintains power and the financial market collapses completely, they're going to say, this is your fucking choice. It's not going to go back to the barter system. It's not going to go back to every state's printing their own currency, and we're going to have to figure out how to deal with that. It's going to be a centralized bank currency, and it's going to be controlled completely by the government, and it will be one more thing to put the boot a little harder down on your neck. So we have to be prepared to act accordingly. You have to be ready to become self-sufficient. You have to be able to build a network of people you know you can trust and people you can rely on that will offset skill sets where you're fucking lacking. That's the only way we get through this, is build those networks, create those relationships, establish those understandings and that dialogue, because as much as I hate to say it, I really think it's going to be necessary. It's going to be how we get through this, is by smaller communities where we're going to have to take care of each other. We're going to have to help each other, because if we don't, we are fucking doomed. And this little tiny sliver of a minority of a population is going to put its boot down on the neck of everybody else. And everybody's situation is going to be so shitty where you will do or say or act or think however they tell you to get a little bit of fucking relief if you're not ready to do those things for yourself and on your own. And unfortunately for us, they have created an entire class of people at this point that are incapable of being self-sufficient. We're talking about young adults who can't barely function in the face of conflict. They don't know how to survive. They have no survival skills. They have no survival instinct. They don't know how to deal with conflict. They can't deal with strife or they can't deal with even fucking simple base disagreements at this point. They scream and cry and act like little fucking spoiled children, and they lack the capacity to think critically. They lack the capacity to function in the face of adversity, and it's going to bite everybody in the fucking ass, because there's plenty of them out there, and they're gonna be a burden on the rest of us, and they're not going to see that they are part of the fucking problem. And it's gonna take a little return to nature, a little natural cruelty, because nature can be very fucking cruel, because that's what it takes to survive sometime. And at some point, no matter how bad we feel for them, we may have to cut our fucking losses and go, you know what, you don't contribute, you don't pull your own weight, you're fucking useless, and it's either root hog or fucking die. And we might have to be willing to turn our back on some of these motherfuckers. As much as I hate to say it, I don't want to, but it's gonna have to be done. They're going to have to be left to their own fucking devices, and if you can't contribute, you're not entitled to fucking partake. It's that simple. Well, that went to a really dark fucking place. I'm bringing myself down. Well, Harkos, I hope I didn't depress you in the end there. And I'm going to wrap it up now because it's getting late and I got to get up in the morning and go to the gym. So that's what I had to say. Thanks for listening to another episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, leave a comment, leave a review, leave a rating. Go to ihadtosayitpodcast.com, sign up for the mailing list, interact with the show. Click the links, sign up for the Patreon, join the Discord. Come and interact, be a part of the show. Buy the merch, support your favorite creator. Or support me. Anyway. Thanks for listening, guys. Till next time.